This is the modular sleep system in its entire kit. Complete weight is just over 9 pounds. Let's talk about the entire configuration and how soldiers actually use it in the field and downrange. Let's go. So you can stuff this thing a little bit, but it's not gonna help too much. Most of this is the newer system, which means it's gonna be in this wonderful UCP color, except for my Bivy, and I'll tell you why later. So let's unpack it and then we'll get down into the configurations. So this is the original Woodland Bivy. This weighs just over 2 pounds. It is tough as hell. Mine is 20 years old. It is waterproof. Mine is still waterproof. And this is the most common item taken out to the field. There's no official rating on this, but most agree we could take just this with other clothing down to about 50-degree weather. This is the summer patrol bag, or what most of us call the jungle blanket. This weighs about 2.2 pounds. It is synthetic and it is rated down to 30 degrees. Lastly, this is the intermediate, or as we call it, the winter bag. This giant thing weighs in at around 4.4 pounds and it is rated down to -10 degrees Fahrenheit. We'll get to that. Soldiers also get a smaller compression bag. This is good to throw the Bivy and the jungle bag in there and maybe a pillow. I have not been able to fit the entire system in this smaller bag, but it's good to have a secondary compression sack. Most soldiers do not use the compression bags. The only time I've actually seen it used is when guys have to add their winter bag last minute, so they just strap it onto the back of their ruck. That's not the preferred method of carry though. This is the original compression and storage bag everything comes with. For most of us, this just turned into our laundry bag wherever we were. As you can see, I have everything just sprawled out on the wet ground. Well, that's the beauty of military stuff and synthetics. You can get a little bit wet and dirty, it's gonna be all right. Now let's get down into the details and how I would personally configure all this and take it out to the field. And I'm also gonna cover some of the general habits I've seen other grunts do in the field. As you can see, the Bivy has two sides. You've got your woodland and then your kind of old school OD green. It doesn't really matter which side you put down on the ground. It's waterproof all over. And of course, the best thing about military sleeping bags, all of them have an emergency zipper function. In case you got to get out real quick and fight, or hey, maybe you had that Chili Mac MRE before dinner and you got to get out fast and make some business happen. This Bivy is over 20 years old now. I can't even tell you how much I've used this in the field and it still functions perfectly. It is treated with DWR for water resistance, so once it does start to get a little bit funky with rain, wash it, throw it in the dryer, it's going to be good to go again. What a lot of people don't know about this Bivy is most of us don't have the luxury of setting up shelters, even a basic poncho A-frame like this behind me. So many times, too many to count, I've spent just sleeping in this, what most people call cowboy camping. Monsoon rains come and everything. You make do, you pull it over you, you hope you don't have to get out at all at night, and you'll stay nice and dry. Now for comparison, this is the Snug Pack Bivy. A lot of people call it the Special Forces Bivy. Just as a comparison for you though. 2.2 pounds, big and bulky, but completely waterproof and tough as nails. Not totally waterproof, but very light. And something like this would be great for if you're just trying to protect yourself from condensation overnight, or if you're sleeping in a shelter like this, frost getting all over you. This is light and very cool, very functional, but you will not be sleeping in direct rain all night with this. Ain't gonna happen, guys. So I'm gonna talk about these configurations in grunt field training, so extended days and nights out in the environment, as well as actual combat operations and overnight patrols in a combat environment. With that being said, the #1 priority when we're doing planning and actually getting out onto the ground is security. Security trumps everything, especially comfort. So some things I'm gonna mention, I probably wouldn't do if I was just going out for an overnighter with my buddies, but this is the best way we could make it work considering the size and weight and all the other mission essential items we are carrying. That's how we have to plan this. The temperature ratings on this system, most people would say bullshit, but you have to keep in mind that soldiers are generally not stripping down to their skivvies and bunny slippers to go down for a good 8-9 hours of sleep. We're typically sleeping in most of the clothes we wear, and this whole system is designed for soldiers to sleep in their snivel gear, or what you guys know as cold weather gear. Plus, if you think about trying to minimize the load you're carrying, if I'm mostly going to be out away from my shelter in the environment, I'm going to be carrying a whole bunch of cold weather clothing anyway. So that means I get to skip on my sleep system because I'm going to have all this cold weather stuff on regardless. That has to come with you. You might get away from your shelter and get stuck in a patrol base far away from this, and then all you have is the clothes on you. So it's better to bring more clothing so that you are okay without a shelter, and then your sleep system is just an extra bonus. I actually did a video about this subject last winter, so go check that out. It will be linked up here somewhere. All right, so the Bivy, there is no official rating on the Bivy. However, I think a lot of soldiers would agree that when we go out into the field with just the Bivy and a good sleep mat, you can actually get this down to 50s, maybe mid 50s overnighters, and you're gonna be okay. Most times, if we're talking about summer to maybe very early fall, I'm just gonna bring this Bivy out with me and a good sleep mat. As I said, if I know it's gonna be a little bit chilly at night, I'm gonna have my silk weight base layer, maybe the mid-weight, what we call waffle top, on me. So once I climb onto a good sleep mat combined with this Bivy, I'm most likely gonna be pretty good to go. So on those colder, wetter nights, you might get a little bit of a chill, but again, it's something you have to deal with. You will survive. All right, now let's talk about getting into the colder months, maybe mid to late fall, even into the early winter. Again, I'm a dude from the Gulf Coast, southern Mississippi. I hate being freaking cold. So if you're a dude that's born and raised in Alaska or way up there in North Canada, you're probably gonna have to carry less. And I've seen soldiers get by with very little in the field and be okay. So when we get down into the colder months, maybe into early, very early winter, what many soldiers start to do is they bring their patrol bag. The original one was rated to right at 32 degrees freezing. For some reason, they rated the newer one down to 30 degrees. Every grunt who knows what he's doing always has this Bivy. Always. You never know if you might not be able to set up your shelter. So you will learn a painful lesson if you do not bring this and you have no cover to sleep under. I guarantee it. So we always have this. The next upgrade is going to be some more clothing. Once we can't stretch our clothing in the Bivy anymore, we start to bring out the patrol bag. You can have your jungle bag snapped into your Bivy already. That's a good idea. But I've talked about this in another video and I want to address it again. Let's say this is my bag, my ruck. Most of us don't use wet weather bags and compression bags. We use items we're already gonna have with us. That means your Bivy can become your wet weather bag, because it is waterproof and you will be able to float with it. This is what a lot of us would do if we're putting that sleep system in our ruck. We've got our Bivy. This goes in there. Maybe some extra cold weather clothing, like some leggings or something I'm gonna try to throw on at night. Might throw in there too. We've got that closed up. Like the wet weather bags, big old stinky ones. Roll it up a whole bunch. Get it packed in there. And yeah, you could swim across a lake with this. You might get a little bit of water in there through the zipper, but you'll be okay. And again, it's synthetic. It's not going to kill you. So that is about the space we're looking at taking up in our ruck with this moderate cold weather sleep system. How deep of a temperature can we take this? Well, generally most of us would take this system down into freezing temperatures. If you got your mid-weight base layer stuff, maybe your puff jacket, you will actually be pretty comfortable in just this system. So what are we looking at? Just over 4 pounds for an into freezing temperature condition. That's also tough as hell and is going to protect you from the elements. Not bad. Wait on the wind to die down. We've had some insane late summer storms. I mean, 50 degrees and light pissing down all day rain and monsoon rain. And now this is like April winds. Now let's get down to the deep winter. The winter or intermediate bag is rated down to -10 Fahrenheit. By itself, absolutely not. If we're talking about below freezing temps and you know it's gonna stay that way, if you have the room, I've seen a lot of soldiers actually get rid of the summer bag and replace it with this, and then with the bivy and this, you're gonna be good, probably down to the mid-20s. That's what I could push it into. Now again, wearing a whole bunch of cold weather clothing. If you wanna see a video on the extended cold weather clothing system, I have 2 of those. Go check those out. When we are talking about below 20, down to the teens, and even 0 and below, you're gonna have to have the complete system. Now, I have been in plenty of horrible cold weather environments, but I personally have only gotten this system at the lowest down to 4 degrees Fahrenheit. Being a guy from Mississippi, that is damn cold, but combined with the ECWCS, certain layers, and the whole system, I was actually good to go. Again, that's 9 extra pounds to your loadout on top of food, water, ammo, other clothing, other mission essential items. So the problem is, if you want to bring this whole system out, you got to have the room, the ability to carry it, the will to carry all that, and you are probably going to be in extreme cold weather. And we are always carrying a sleep mat, something to get us off the ground. Sure, if you get stuck in a patrol base and maybe you don't have all your sleeping gear with you, you're just gonna have to suck it up, lay on the ground. There's nothing you can do about it. Hopefully you're smart enough to carry something with you to keep you off the ground, even if it's just for another patrol, some kind of night recon, and you know you're gonna be laying on the ground. I've been there, guys. I've been in plenty of situations where I left my crap back at the ORP or the patrol base, and I go out and do a recon, get stuck over at night, just absolutely sucking. So again, bivy, good down to probably 55, 50 degrees. I've seen guys take just this down into freezing temperatures, and with a lot of cold weather clothing, they're okay. That's personally not for me though. When it gets down to freezing and just below freezing, I need at least the patrol bag and the bivy, cold weather clothing. I'm pretty good to go. Once we get to the mid-20s and below, I got the whole damn system out. That's it for the overall configurations and setups, the concept and methodology behind it all. So if you're ready to get out of here, you got the big chunk of information. I appreciate you joining me. Next, I'm gonna get into some other theories and systems and just kind of some tips for you guys. So stick around for that. Everybody else, I appreciate you. Okay, so for those of you who wish to know more, let's talk about setups. What a lot of people would do, the old Alice Ruck was awesome because you would have your poncho in one pocket on one side, on the outside pocket, and then you could stuff the bivy down on another outside pocket. I haven't rolled it up that great, but you can actually get it down in one of those outside pockets. So when you get to your base camp, ORP or whatever, it's right there in your pouch. Another thing guys would do, especially on the modern rucks that don't have all the pockets on the outside, roll it up and you can strap it to the ruck. And I've mentioned this before, the fastest shelter setup you could ever do in the field is with bungee cords, all right? We always have 550 cord with us. It's good to know knots and how to use it and everything, but this is so freaking fast for setup and breakdown. You can just ball all this up, throw it in your ruck, and get the hell out of there. So because I always have bungees and always have extras, because you never know how big the space is between your trees, if I didn't use this as a wet weather bag, I'd put my extra bungee around it, maybe some cordage, whatever you want to do. Not going anywhere, strap it to the outside. And you know, you could also roll up some of your sleep gear inside that. So booties, extra socks, leggings. Now I want to talk about something I think a lot of experienced people know, but if you're kind of a novice dude and you're still watching this, this is pretty unknown. How do you use your sleep mat with your bivy? Okay, well again, it doesn't matter which side you put on the ground. Both sides give you the same protection. So if you just have this, I like to put my mouthpiece up by my head so it's not at my feet. And I'm putting my mouth where my feet were. There you go. Your sleep mat goes inside of the Bivy. That's how it's designed. It's nice and large, so you have that space to do so. So that's pretty much how that works. Now, if you're kind of in a hurry, you can now go ahead and deflate your thing. If you got a rubber mat, well, non-inflatable mat, you're good to go, man. Fold it up, roll it up. But if I got to get out of here in a hurry, I'm going to deflate this, stomp all over it, put my shelter away, and then I'm just going to fold this up, roll it up as it is. A Grunt ultralight sleep system for the field, just about 4 pounds. So people say, okay, what about the jungle bag? And if you're gonna snap them together. So I usually wouldn't have mine snapped in there unless it's freezing and I know I'm going to need to. So we'll just do a couple snaps. That's good. Why do we put the sleeping mat inside the Bivy? And why don't we put it inside of our actual sleeping bag? I've had that question numerous times. When you have your mat inside of your sleeping bag, on your sides you've now created a space, because chances are that sleeping mat isn't going to fold up and hug your body. But instead of having the sleeping bag rest up against your body like it's designed to, now you have this space in there between your body and the sleeping bag, and your body is wasting body heat to try to heat that space. So you want your sleeping bag, all your cold weather stuff, to be as close to your body as possible. If you do have them snapped together, well, as you can see, look at all this room in here. So I'll show you guys. You can actually pick up your entire jungle bag. You can actually throw it out of the way altogether. And there you go. We're inside of our Bivy. We're good to go. I talked about guys throwing their entire system in the compression bag and throwing it outside their ruts. That's fine. Plenty of people do that. It's kind of a hassle to have this big clunky thing on the outside of your rut and an extra 9 pounds to go with it. But if you were going to do that, I will show you how most people did that as well. Be right back. All right, so if you didn't know, this is not too common. The intermediate or cold weather bag goes inside the summer or jungle or patrol bag, whatever you want to call it. The intermediate bag is a little bit smaller. It's going to fit closer to your body. The jungle bag is a little bit larger, so it can hold your winter bag. And it also has to do with condensation, evaporation off of your body. It's the way the system is designed. Okay, so we snap all these together. At least half of the weight in this system is the buttons. Heavy duty military buttons. Once we get these together, we close them up. Always keep your stuff closed when possible. Okay, so I've had this question. I got to piece together a kit. Does the old Bivy fit with the new stuff and vice versa? Absolutely. Military stuff is universal. To waterproof this, do a couple outside buttons. That's notional. Now, you've got to get the air out of the bottom. We'll get it out slowly up through the top. So, we slam and cram. It's all pieced together, doesn't matter how. Pick up a couple sticks with us. Camouflage. I'm going to make sure both sleeping bags are down inside the bivy. Get that Velcro right there. I'm going to roll it up. Get some air out. Keep doing that. Get that opening down in there. Now, if I am strapping this to the outside of my ruck, it's almost totally waterproof. Okay, so even if I got to ford a lake or something, which if I'm carrying this system, it tells me it's way too cold to be fording some water, swimming across stuff, but you never know. But at least, because this is on the outside of my ruck, it's not going to be fully submerged. But if I'm worried about this going underwater, well, what do, grunts? We take our good old poncho out, we tie it up around our ruck. Now we have this big old massive, full of air floating pillow to go across the water with. All right, so if I strap this onto Alice, I never really stressed about getting this totally compressed, because I would usually throw it on top of Alice. So when we're talking about the width of the Alice pack and even the Molly large ruck, you compress this up anymore, now you've got this strange oblong ball up there on top of your ruck, and it's going to move around. You leave it about the width of the pack you're putting it on. Make sure it's kind of evened out. Now, when you strap it up there on top of the ruck, either using their tie-off points or just the strap like I would do, now it's mostly even. That's very important. So, that is it, grunts. I appreciate you guys sticking with me and watching till the end. Let me know what you thought down there in the comments. Let me know what else you would like to see as well. And until that next video, I will see you guys in the outdoors. Take care of yourselves. Another beauty of military surplus stuff, snaps. It ain't gonna break. Got the zipper on that one. Didn't rip. Try that with y'all's down. Ultralight down.